Hello, this is Jonathan, and as usual, I have my heater on because I'm a professional. I'm very good at this video recording thing. And anyway, yeah, today it's pretty late. I haven't really been able to record much this past week. Oh, there goes the heater. It's turning off now. Cool, good timing. And yeah. Among other things, I've spoken to a bunch of people recently, and I have been told that just not just how do I say this? I've been told that me writing stuff in Rust is not interesting. It's well, not interesting for the reason that it's not understandable, and that using a more conventional language would be better. And I guess I will say that I record for fun, and I prefer to use languages that I want to use. That's literally, that's what makes this more fun for me. I don't want to just stick with ye old C, C++, the usual suspects. I mean, there's already plenty of that everywhere else, so I don't personally find it that interesting, because I feel like it's good to try and diversify and not just get shoehorned into the usual like industry notions that OO is the best and there's nothing else out there. Programming is a means to an end, and it doesn't matter how I get there. If I write the program and it works, it doesn't matter what language or tools or whatever. As long as it gets me there fast, I'll use whatever is out there and is most commonly used to help me get to that end state. And I don't know, like that kind of thinking is just it just doesn't sit well with me. Like, for me, the journey matters too, because you learn a lot about different paradigms when you pick up other languages. Like, for me, it's not just like Rust. I mean, I've also dabbled with like Haskell. I've dabbled in Scala. Like, I know Python. I've definitely done a lot of programming in Java in my past, and yeah, like picking up all sorts of languages isn't like such a bad thing. I know a lot of people think that it's like a huge time investment, it's not worth it. And again, like it's all about the goal, the end state. Like, if I want to do something, I might as well just use this language that I'm familiar with or that everybody else is using, that kind of thing. Like, why is nobody else using this new language? I shouldn't bother with it. That's the same kind of mentality I've been seeing all over the place, and I just don't really agree with it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's good to diversify. It's good to see other paradigms, see how programs are written in different ways, because a programming language, in a way, is kind of like a tool, right? Like, you want to make sure that you're using the right tool for the right jobs, right? I'm saying right a lot, but in order to really get a good bead on if you're doing quote-unquote the right thing, you kind of have to explore a bit. You kind of have to actually, expand your horizons and understand what's out there, because people will try and, once they have a hammer in their hand, they're going to look at everything as a nail and think, well, yeah, I should use this hammer on everything. And it's very easy to get tunnel visioned like that, and I'm not saying that I never do, because like, obviously certain libraries and stuff, different tools and dependencies even it can be hard to judge which one is the right one right away. But when it comes to something as fundamental as like language that you're using for the program, because like when you write a program, you're going to have to pick a language, right? You can't just you can't write a program in nothing. Watch as there's a language called nothing. But no, like you can't write a language without, you know, some kind of syntax or anything, or you can't write a program without any kind of, you know, language at all backing it. So you really do want to make sure that you're making the right choices, like up front and early on, or at least try make an effort to make the right choices up front. And for some people, I guess that's like the difference between C++ and Java, right? Like, oh, maybe I want this to be more memory safe. Okay, I'll use Java. Or, oh, okay, I want this one to be fast. I'm just going to pick C++. And like, it really isn't that simple. I know it can be kind of hard for people to get away from that kind of thinking too, like that it's just like a binary choice between like the most popular languages or something. But there's so many other factors that you really do need to worry about, like correctness, for example. Like if you look at functional programming languages like Haskell, you can see that they have a lot of mechanisms for actually, you know, making sure that your programs are correct. And catching stuff at compile time is definitely a boon in my opinion, because if you can catch a lot of errors at compile time, then the user, the customer, whoever, isn't going to be running into runtime errors so much. But I don't know. People don't seem to care. Their only counter argument to that is when I show them something that is like that is clearly, you know, a nicer option, like say not being able to run into seg faults in safe Rust and being able to catch these kinds of things at compile time. The only retort I get is, well, why doesn't everybody use Rust? So, I mean, it's not like people aren't adopting Rust, it's just that there's a lot of people who think that same way, and so then people don't really move. Well, that's not entirely true. Of course there's other reasons not to use Rust, right? Like, some people don't like the syntax, some people don't like the learning curve, some people just don't like the lack of good crates in the ecosystem, and those are all very valid reasons for not using a language. Going with the logic of, well, nobody else is using it is, I don't know, it just it bothers me, because to me it is such a good thing to look at other languages and see how other paradigms handle the same kinds of problems. Look at how Haskell handles null values compared to like C and C++, and I mean that's like the basis for why Rust handles, you know, null with the whole sum none thing, right? Like Haskell has the maybe monad with just and nothing variants, and Rust does the same thing with option and sum none. It learns. It's because people have learned from older languages, from other languages, how to solve certain problems in a better way. And I say better, and that's obviously a very terrible word to use here, because it doesn't really, you know, describe particularly well like how things are being solved. But I don't know, anyway, I feel like I'm just going way off topic here. I'm just a little bit annoyed at kind of the sorts of things that people have been saying, but that's just how it is. People will do what people do. I just think that there is value in, you know, diversifying and not getting tunnel visioned and trying to stick to one paradigm, and, you know, basically having to create a bunch of work and a bunch of like extra patterns for yourself just to avoid certain problems. I mean, yeah, it can work. I mean, that's why all those object-oriented design patterns exist. You can certainly solve problems in certain ways, in a sort of principled manner, by using patterns, but like again, when you're working in large code bases with other people, it's anything goes really, because other people will do, whatever they want, and I mean that's the reason why even if you're like a perfect programmer who doesn't make the mistake of trying to dereference null or whatever, if someone else comes along and changes something and suddenly some invariant is broken, or like something that should be invariant is suddenly no longer, then yeah, stuff can go wrong, and it isn't as easy as it might seem. Like, just because you're perfect, which by the way you probably aren't, but just because you're perfect doesn't mean that the other people working on the project are. So, that's how I see it. And to me, Rust is just a good language for avoiding a lot of the kinds of issues where people will, do things the wrong way. Someone described it as like a hammer that you can only hold by the handle. I wouldn't say that Rust is exactly that, but it does a lot better of a job of that than a number of other languages. I've seen people like misuse Scala quite a lot, and it's not good. But yeah, Rust is, in general, it's not that, like, there's a lot of things that it makes hard to misuse, and so I like that about the language. It's not perfect. I still think that things like named parameters would be nice in Rust. I saw the justification for why named parameters aren't supported in Rust, and to me it seemed kind of silly, because they're like, oh, you should just pass a struct in instead of passing in multiple arguments. But I've seen plenty of blog posts where people are writing stuff in Rust and they don't pass in structs for their functions. They just pass in the arguments, and sure enough, you can't tell what they are. It's just like a number being passed into a function. But people seem to insist that no, it's not really a priority to have named parameters. So I mean, yeah, I think that the language isn't perfect, but the way that it has handled things is it's a marked improvement over what a lot of older languages have done. I mean, it kind of makes sense too, right? Like, you're not going to make a new language unless you actually try to learn something from the older ones. Or you're not going to try to make a language that is actually used by people unless you actually learn. Or at least I hope so. So, yeah. Just I guess it's just more of a conventional wisdom versus trying things new. Anyway, now that I'm done rambling about that, I guess what I should try and do is continue implementing the play state over here. So I was thinking about this whole shuffle and fill thing. Maybe I could also do a struct here. I'm not sure if that's necessary, honestly. Since these variables are named and everything, I think this is fine. Like, these variables that I'm actually passing in have names, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Also, I guess it's nice that IntelliJ will give you this. Yeah, this tells you the actual name of the parameter. Which makes me wonder, again, like, why is this necessarily such a bad thing? I mean, IntelliJ is doing it for me. Why wouldn't someone in another program not want this, right? I don't know. whatever, people make decisions, and this is the decision they came up with. Blah blah blah. I'm just whining again. So, generate locations will create a vector of filled locations, and I don't know if this is being called anywhere. It's being called here, but we're returning unit because I'm not doing anything with that vector. So let's just do this. We'll just get the filled locations. And now, what I think I should do, I should probably, yeah, I need the semicolon there still. Can't forget that. What I should do is try and generate appropriate objects or entities for this. I feel like that makes sense. Also, another interesting news update that I noticed was the Amethyst Foundation, which was created. Seems like the Amethyst team is looking for donations to help fund their work so they can keep working on the engine and everything, and I don't know how I feel about that. Does Piston have an organization like that? Like a Piston Foundation where you can like donate money to like the Piston devs? Because I don't remember seeing anything like that for a Piston, at the very least. So it seems a little bit odd. But I'm using Amethyst right now, so I guess yeah, I'm gonna keep using it. I mean, it's obviously it sounds like they're trying to go the Mozilla way, do the whole non-profit thing. So it's like you can donate as like a gesture of goodwill or whatever, but the engine is still free to use. It is kind of interesting though to see that happen, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that, because there aren't really any games written in Amethyst right now. But like they said, it's a bit of a catch-22, and they well, at least they claim that they need funding in order to keep improving the engine so that it is ready for making games. So it could be seen as a good sign. It could also be seen as a bad sign. Again, it's another opinion-based thing. And yeah, I need to figure out how to do prefabs. That's right. I completely forgot. That's what I was aiming for. So prefabs. Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to read this, which is not a thing I usually do. Reading. Prefab in Amethyst is at the core a simple list of future entities where each entry in the list consists of two pieces of optional data. A parent index that refers to a different entry in the list. The data collection implementing the trait PrefabData. Okay. Right, and it said that you could define them in a RON file, and then it pointed me at some examples. Right, puffyscene.ron. Yes. And I was staring at that, and I don't think it was completely obvious to me how I was supposed to do all this. So, yeah, I guess I'll go take a peek at that. I don't know why I'm scrolling down there. I just wanted to look at the examples to see if anything had changed. I think something did change. It didn't. Wasn't there? Hang on. Has this always been here? Maybe it was. I don't know. I'm just kind of letting my wine? I'm letting my mind wander. But what I'm actually looking for here is the puffy scene, right? I was looking at that earlier too, last time, but it's been a while since I looked at that. So, where did it go? Oh, is it just a prefab? It's not actually an example? There's a prefab example here. Prefab / example.ron. Because, yeah, I would like to instantiate all my, wow, I don't even know what to call them. Are they going to be treasure chests? Am I just going to go with treasure chests? Because that's what they do in Zelda. They just use treasure chests. I don't think I want to use treasure chests because I'm doing like a more, I don't know, the game is going to be in a very different style. But it's going to be item locations, I guess. Because I don't have a proper name for them. I don't know what to call them, but they're not necessarily going to be treasure chests, I think. Watch as I just, make them all treasure chests anyway, because that's the easy and cliche thing to do. So this is a prefab example. I'm having trouble speaking today. Wow. Prefab / example.ron. Okay, so that seems to be all that they do. You get a prefab handle. Create an entity with the prefab handle, and then they call that build. So, if I'm not mistaken, what this does is this loads a single prefab. And from that single prefab handle, you can just do this data.world.create entity with, give it the prefab handle, and then .build. So if I built if I wanted to build another of this prefab, I could just do this, and then do it on a separate line. And then I have two entities with the same, two copies of that prefab. What I think is interesting, I think I noted last time that they define like the coordinates, x, y, z coordinates, in the .ron file. But if you think about it, if you like prefabs in, say, Unity, that's the name I'm looking for, Unity. Prefabs in Unity, you can like drag them all over the place. You can put like I don't know, if you had like a yellow sphere prefab, you can like put them in all sorts of different positions in the world. So no, it's not something that would be like hard coded in the RON file that you would never be able to modify, or at least I should think. So that's kind of interesting. They have a prefab here that has coordinates, but you might not necessarily want those coordinates. Also, I kind of want to clone this tab or something, so I think I'm going to do that. It was under, what? Prefab / example, okay. Where are the prefabs? Are they under resources or something? I'm not sure. Also noticed that someone else was streaming Amethyst game development. I thought that was kind of interesting. They posted about it on the subreddit anyway, the Rust subreddit. I mean, I'm not exactly doing that. I'm just recording logs, and I'm kind of going at my own pace, which is kind of slow, but it's good to see more people trying to give Amethyst some more exposure. Amethyst and Rust, I guess. It is pretty cool. I went back to examples for some reason. I guess I want to go into assets. Yeah, there we go. This is what I'm looking for. Huh. They just... Okay, so they load an asset file mesh/cube.object. Okay, so this is just a 3D model. And that's the mesh. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm going to be doing that because I'm playing with sprites, but it gives me ideas. So it looks like you just have these kinds of tuples. Tuples with named arguments. As far as I know, that's not a thing you can do in Rust, but I could be wrong. Let's go to the Rust playground. I'm actually kind of curious. Can you have like a named tuple? I don't need non-lexical lifetimes to test this. Well, not a named tuple, obviously. A named tuple is just a struct. Because tuples are just anonymous product types. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Does this even make sense? Okay, so this does what? Name, colon, and then value. That seems kind of weird. But, okay. It says this is Rusty object notation. Can I assume that this is Rusty? And that it will compile? Or no? Okay, no. That's a type... ascription? Ascription? I don't know. Don't know how to pronounce that. Don't care. Okay, so you can't really do that. Or... you can't do that at all. So no, this isn't exactly Rust syntax. For Rusty object notation, it sure doesn't seem very Rust-like. No, I wonder why they call it Rusty object notation. So it has data in this, I guess, tuple with a graphics and a transform. But you don't always need graphics, because this one doesn't have graphics. But this one does have a transform. So what exactly do you need to put in a prefab? I guess all this stuff could be optional, but... like, do I have to have a transform? What if I want to... what if I want some other information? Like, I'm not really sure how this is going to work. Or maybe prefabs aren't the way to go. You know? Because what I was thinking was my prefab would have an item in it, but I guess you can't really know what item is in the in this entity until, you know, you actually do the randomization. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You do know that it is empty, though, to begin with. So if I have a flag that indicates whether or not something is empty, I feel like that makes sense. So it wouldn't be the worst idea for a prefab, but I don't know how to define a prefab properly in one of these files, because I don't really know what is or isn't valid. That's the problem with this. So the other option I have is to actually dig through the source code again, just to figure this out, but I don't really want to. Ideally, you shouldn't have to. I wonder if there's anything in here that would somehow clarify that. Because it really feels like there isn't anything here. Yeah, no. I don't really know about this. Oh boy, this is not... This is not going well. Oh, I so do not look forward to the next version of Amethyst changing everything. That's the other problem with Amethyst, just like, oh, the API is just never going to be stable, so it feels that way. So it feels like all this work is probably just going to end up being, well, I wouldn't say it'll go down the drain, but it sure feels that way sometimes. You have to like change so many things just because you wanted to update your dependency. Like, having some stabilization would be pretty cool. I just don't understand how prefabs work, period, right now, though. And that would be nice if I could somehow make that happen. I don't know. I'm currently just thinking about a lot of things. Well, mostly, I guess, what I said earlier. So, I don't know. I'm having a hard time focusing. I'm trying to figure out how prefabs work. Gotta remember, try to figure out how the prefabs work. It's very important. Like, even if I did go with like a JSON format, I wouldn't know how to, like, what fields are allowed. It doesn't change anything. Is there some principled like way I can kind of map the prefabs to? Oh wait! Oh, hello. I'm being incredibly silly. It says so right here. I wasn't reading. I was just, yeah, no, my mind is clearly wandering all over the place. I'm not focused. It was right here. There's a graphics prefab, and then there's a transform, and then there's a light, and then a camera prefab. That's what's in here. Or not here, but wherever I was staring. Not here either. Well, I can keep that, I guess. But in the assets file I was looking at. I don't know, maybe I'll do a separate video just explaining my thoughts on what else, on the whole language debacle, so I can think more clearly about that. And what was it, example? Yeah, not try to multitask so much. Like, I'm trying to work on this thing at the same time as I'm trying to explain how I feel about, you know, just in general being kind of ignorant about that kind of stuff. In this industry, it's okay to be ignorant about things because you can't possibly know everything. There's just too much knowledge. There's way too many things to know. But I do think that languages, like knowing which programming language to use and what can ultimately stop you from doing incredibly stupid things somewhere really far down the line, I feel like that's I feel like that is important. Because if you know that you can pick a language that will prevent you from, you know, introducing security holes in your program while still, you know, remaining at least fairly efficient, then like, why wouldn't you, right? Like, it's to me, it's just as important as, you know, thinking of a good design to make your program scalable, because in a way it kind of does make your program more scalable by picking the right language, because it prevents you from shooting yourself in the foot later on when you try to scale up and you introduce more bugs into your code and one of them happens to be a critical security flaw or something, right? Like, if you have a language that can prevent that from happening, then you're saving yourself a ton of work. Like, use the right language for the right job. If you're stuck using a certain language because of the project you're on, because it's not your project or something, like, don't make a big fuss about it and like kick and scream and say, use this language, it's better for the job. Go with the flow in that case, I think, because you want to be pragmatic about things. You don't want to just like stop using a certain language, even though most of the code base is already written in that, just because, you know, you think this is better and you want to rewrite the entire darn thing. It's I mean, in an ideal world that'll cost like no time and it'd be easy to do, but no, that isn't practical. You still have to be practical about things. So like, it's okay to use suboptimal languages in certain places, but if you have the choice, if you have the chance, if you're starting a new project and you can make that kind of decision, then I feel like that's why it's good to learn about, you know, it's good to learn about the tools that you have available to you and do research on, and figure out which one is best for you. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe they just don't care because they don't ever want to write their own projects, so they don't feel the need to really diversify and expand. And I can get that. I can understand that too. You don't want to ever, you know, you don't ever want to write your own project. You just want to, you know, do work on other people's projects. Then, you know, I guess that's fine. But yeah, definitely if you're going to write your own stuff, I feel that's when you actually care. And again, I'm going way off topic again, just because like it's what's currently on my mind. It's what's kind of bothering me. I should just do a separate video for it, but for some reason I decided not to. And now it's just eating into my time as I try and work on my game. Good times. So this light has a light inside of it, by the way. Just want to put that out there. This light has a light field. And well, I guess no. Transform and translation are different. I was gonna say, oh, but these are the same. No, they're not. I just saw trans, and I was like, ah. Some people work on not what do you call those things again? Not prefixes, the opposite. Not postfixes, obviously. Suffixes, yeah. So I've actually met someone who reads things like this way, like they read suffixes first, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Because in my mind, I always start from here, and yeah, when I see stuff like this matching, I go like, ah, but no. Like translation and transform, they definitely are not the same thing, even if they all start with trans. Maybe it does make more sense to read suffixes. Maybe that is more efficient. I don't know. It's an interesting little thought experiment, I guess. Or maybe someone's already, you know, done the research about that. You know what's fun about these videos? I can just ramble and it doesn't really matter. It's all kind of inconsequential. That's kind of why I like doing these. Alright. So, this maps to this, somehow. I saw light. Yeah, light is here. Light. We got transform. Transform light, yeah. Camera. Yeah, camera's here in this one. And then, I guess graphics. So yeah, these are all options. So they're all technically optional, and each one of these things uses different ones. And I guess the ones that aren't used are just none. Which would make sense, right? Because option is used to represent that this is nullable. So there's an absence of a value, potentially. I don't know. I don't really know if I should say nullable, because there isn't really a null in Rust. But none is kind of, you know, the placeholder or replacement for null. A much better replacement for null, but still, it's not exactly null. I don't know how long I've been recording. I should probably stop soon. But I don't really want to. Not quite yet. Since I am starting to figure some things out, slowly but surely. In that case, graphics prefab has object format and texture format in it. Is that what's going on here? I don't know. No, not really. No. In a custom prefab data implementation, GLTF. Okay. That's what I need to know. How to make a custom prefab data implementation. See, I am learning things. Even though I am very distracted, I am still learning things. I also learned about variants the other day. I actually finally read through the Nomicon and made an actual effort to understand variants. I also looked at variants in Scala as well, just to, compare. And turns out that lifetimes have this kind of subtyping relationship, which is not unlike how, subclassing relationships work in OO languages. So, yeah, you can actually apply the concept of variance in Rust to lifetimes. What's, I guess, kind of nice about variance in Rust is that you don't actually have to worry about specifying covariance or contravariance yourself, like you would in a language like Scala, or C#, where you can use like the out and in keywords for certain generics to indicate that whether your container type or whatever is covariant or contravariant on a certain argument. Rust already handles all that stuff for you because, well, we don't have subclassing in Rust at all. There's no concept of that. So it does that isn't a concept that's applicable to Rust, at least there. And so then all we have is lifetimes, so we have the bigger lifetimes are a subtype of smaller lifetimes that they contain. And since Rust already handles all the rules of well, yeah, Rust pretty much already handles all the variant stuff for you. You don't ever have to like specify it yourself, because if you were to specify it, that would cause unsafe code. You'd be able to, do all sorts of bad things. So I'm glad that I don't really need to know much about variance in Rust. I guess it's nice to be aware of it and to be able to recognize places where it's being used with lifetimes, but otherwise, you mostly just don't really have to worry too much about it, which is cool. That's the way it should be. Slightly nicer than having to actually specify whether arguments are covariant or contravariant. Anyway, once again I'm rambling, which is about par for the course. It wanted me to look at this GLTF example, and I'm going to do exactly that. So where's that sample scene prefab data? Here we go. So scene prefab data has transform a GLTF. Okay. Camera, light, tag. Okay. And control tag prefab, which is, fly tag, whatever that is. I wonder what these tags are. Maybe those are like flags. Tag, flag? I could see that, right? Like, mark whether something can be animated. Mark, I don't know, if it can fly. That's why it's called fly tag, right? Probably not. I'm just making things up at this point. Let's see. I just scrolled through a file and didn't understand anything I read. Cool. I guess I should look for usages of scene prefab data then. Okay, well, we have handle here for the scene struct. That's interesting. So whatever scene is, it's not a state. I don't know what scene is exactly. So we have the prefab loader here. We give it scene prefab data. Okay. Load prefab slash puffy scene.ron. Okay. And they set scene.handle. Right, because you can get a prefab handle and then use that handle to create entities. Okay, so this is just a setter that gives the prefab handle to the scene. And where's scene being used? That's what I need to know. Here, probably? Yeah, here we go. So let scene handle equal data.world.read resource scene. Yep, okay. So scene is just a resource. Good to know. And then, yes, it just pulls out the handle. Doesn't unwrap. Oh, okay. Not really sure that's a great idea, but yeah, that's probably not the best idea. You probably shouldn't just do an unwrap like that, but anyway. Then they just do a clone. I see. Right, they're cloning the handle. Then they use it to build entities. I see. I'm saying that a lot, but that's because I'm making multiple realizations in a row, in rapid succession. And that's my general reaction to that kind of thing. I guess I just have a hard time articulating my thoughts sometimes. Because I feel like I can think a lot faster than I can speak. And I suppose that's true for a lot of people, but for me it just makes it so hard to talk about what I'm doing because I'm constantly, you know, thinking about other things. I feel like I'm like 2 steps ahead of myself at all times. And so I might say the completely wrong thing. And that's just kind of how it happens. I guess I just need to practice more and get better at that. But it's hard. It's pretty hard. I guess maybe the more of these that I do, the better I'll get at it. I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this for about like a month now at this point. I haven't really noticed much of a difference, but maybe over time I will notice something change. Or maybe I've already kind of reached my limits and this is the best I'm ever going to be able to do. I hope not, but I guess I wouldn't really be surprised if that ended up being the case. I'd be a little bit disappointed, but I wouldn't be like, oh no, end of the world. I feel like it's something that I would just kind of have to accept. Of course, it's always hard to talk aloud when you're not really talking to anyone at all. It's nice to have an audience, you know, to talk to, because it feels like when you're doing this kind of thing, you're just talking to yourself, and it's kind of weird and awkward most of the time. Or at least it feels that way. But then once you actually post it up, and if, like, someone's looking at it, then well, I guess you can kind of think of it as like lazy evaluation, can't you? The audience is there, but only when when you know when it needs to be there. Because, like, right now, I'm talking to no one, I'm talking to myself, but if someone looks, then, or someone watches the video, then suddenly there is an audience. And it won't be weird at all. And there will never be a case where I'm just talking to no one, because anytime someone's watching, then there will be an audience. You can't, like, watch it and not be an audience. At least in some capacity. So, there we go. I've solved that problem. I know other people have the same problem, and they also have stated that doing, like, recordings like this for things like Let's Plays on YouTube, for example, it's hard to, you know, get out of the mindset like, I'm just talking to myself, it's weird. But if there's any encouragement there, it's definitely that there's always going to be an audience for anyone who actually watches it. So it's technically never completely awkward, sort of. Did I do a good job of justifying that? Probably not. I probably just reaffirmed in their minds that this is just awkward and weird. So anyway, I kind of know what I'm doing now, sort of. I have a better idea of what I'm doing now. I want to create I want to do this world.exec thing, where it takes some kind of loader. Where's this loader coming from anyway? Oh wait, no, this is a, right, this is a closure. Right, so it gets a prefab loader, we give it our custom prefab data. Oh, and it passes an immutable scene. Okay. Oh, no, it's a mutable resource of whatever choosing. Yeah, of whatever you want. So they did a write scene. I could choose a write whatever the heck else. Doesn't have to be a scene. Okay. And then they load from the ROM file. And I think that's exactly what I'm gonna try and do. I guess the only thing that I'm confused about here still is how does this stuff translate to this? What about fly tag, for example? So fly tag is optional. Control tag prefab. So I guess I need to know what the control tag prefab is, wherever that is. Control tag prefab comes from Amethyst Controls. Okay, so that is real. Oh, I see. Okay, what about transform? Transform is such an easy one. It's like brain dead simple. Is this just like the struct instantiation? Because if that's so, if that's the case, then this might actually be pretty easy. And I'm not sure what using unit does. What is data? Also, yeah, what's data? Oh wait, data is an entity, right? Yeah, so this creates an entity where it sets light to that. This creates an entity where it sets tag to unit. Why would it set tag to unit though? That's not the same as none, I don't think. None is when you don't specify it at all, like what they did here. They didn't specify tag, period. So, empty tuple. The best way to figure that out would be where'd that train of thought go? It's gone. I have like the attention span of a goldfish, and that's pretty scary if you think about it. Or maybe less than that of a goldfish. don't really know why I'm not able to focus right now. Actually, I do know I'm not able to focus right now. It's just I have too many other thoughts running in the back of my mind right now to really focus on this right now. It is actually driving me crazy. So yeah, I was trying to figure out something about transforms or tag. Actually, transform. That one also has that one's also set to unit here and then not set to unit here. Yeah, that's really weird. Maybe that's like a default constructor. Maybe that's just passing in arguments to the constructor of transform. You know, that would make sense, I think. Emphasis core transform transform. Okay, let's go there. I have a plan. I don't remember which crate that was. Core transform. Are these crates? I think these are sub crates, right? They have their own cargo.tomls. So yeah, I think this is a product that has been separated into smaller crates, because if you separate a larger project into smaller crates, you can actually improve compile times. That's a little tip that I read somewhere. If you are able to break your project out into smaller sub crates, yeah, you'll get faster compile times. There's some like trickery involved there, but that's exactly what's happening here, I believe. Also, it kind of modularizes things a little bit more nicely, I guess. More pro tips on Rust with me from a non-pro. Transform, right. Duh. I don't know why I was looking in the mod file for that. I guess I'm also kind of sleepy too, because it's like 2:20 a.m. and it's probably, you know, not really a good time. It was just called transform, right? Not. Oh wait. Ooh. Wait, is local transform still? Is that called transform now? Yeah. Okay. There we go. Transform takes ISO and scale. It does not take translation. But ISO has translation. Okay, well. Huh. But it does have this. It's a function. Yeah, I'm not so sure now. Yeah, how come they can use unit there? Transform values? Translation, rotation, scale? Maybe it's transform values? I don't know. Oh wait, no. Didn't it say something about serialization? I feel like it did say something about serialization. That sounds kind of familiar. Alright, maybe now that I have a better understanding of prefabs, maybe I'll get more out of reading this. Okay, yeah, let's look at the implementation of transform. Perfect. Of course. Why wouldn't I, just read the book that has an entry on prefabs? Yeah, I don't care about this anymore. I'm done. I'm gonna look at this now. System data type. Okay. Here we want to write to both transform and global transform, because transform won't work without a companion global transform. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so this specifies the system data type. Okay. Second, we specify what result the add to entity function returns. Okay, this is unit. And return a handle. Okay. And then they define add to entity. Okay. Unit. Alright, no, I just read that. Insert. What? They insert a default global transform and the local transform data. I guess that's what self.clone is doing? Yeah, because this is a transform. That's what self is. On the referenced entity. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. So we aren't using the third parameter of the function. Okay, whatever this is. I don't know what that is. This parameter contains a list of all entities affected by the prefab. The first entry in the list will be the main entity, and the rest will be entities that were created for all entries in the data list inside the prefab. That is a very confusing sentence. So I understand that the first entry in the list will be the main entity. That's the one that's like the master copy. And then the rest of them will be the copies, I guess, of that main prefab entity. That's what it sounds like to me. Also, I'm probably going way over time. I don't really care. Last of all, you see that this does not implement load sub assets, which is because there are no secondary assets to load from source here. Okay. That doesn't really explain anything to me about how this works, though. Like with the actual prefab file. Okay, this one returns a handle A. Alright. I feel like I'm going to have to implement that, aren't I? I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with avoiding that. Actually, they don't implement that trait anywhere in here, so that's kind of interesting. I'm not seeing that. Which trait was that? That was PrefabData. Import PrefabData for asset prefab. Yeah, they don't do that at all. Huh. I guess that's because all these things already implement PrefabData, maybe? Oh wait, no, he does a he? Who? Like the person who wrote this? Can I assume that they're he? I mean, probably multiple people touched this file. Wow. I don't know why I said that. The person who wrote this file included a derive for PrefabData on this, so it looks like there's some kind of default derivation that you can use. So that's cool. I like that. I guess you also need SERDI for this? Sounds like it. So, alright. Yeah, that would probably make sense. That there's some default implementation for this. Doesn't really explain what fields are valid here, though. I still can't figure that out. Because the light has an ambient color, but like, how did they know that that's... Yeah. And again, the transform, this one's empty. This one has like 3 coordinates in it. This one has 3 coordinates and a rotation. Translation, rotation, yeah. Like, what am I missing about this? It has to be these. Translation, rotation, and scale. Transform values. This is the serialization of transform, huh? Okay, I think I understand. It's for when you deserialize it. It deserializes it as, yeah, like this. Right, so you need to define some kind of deserialization using SERDI, obviously. Yeah. Oh, they have an enum for this? Interesting. And they define it right inside here. That's so cool. I've never seen like an internal enum done this way. In Rust, I mean. I didn't even know this was possible, but apparently it is. I mean, obviously that kind of stuff is possible in other languages. Like Java has like inner classes, but yeah, it's cool to see syntax like that being used here, so I can learn more about different ways you can write things. Because I'm all about that diversifying. So yeah, I think that is right. This returns a transform. Yeah, it's a result. But yeah, it's still a transform at the end of the day. Mind you that these are technically optional, aren't they? Yeah, these are, well, not even technically, they are optional. We saw like a transform that was literally just, you know, it was a unit. It didn't have anything in it. Visit seek. The translation equals seek. Got next element, okay, or else. Huh, okay. I don't entirely understand what's going on here. Like, what is seek? Where's seek coming from? Seek.next element. I see visit seek. Oh, here's seek. There it is. Got buried in all this. So seek.next element, okay or else. Alright, I understand that. I definitely think that makes sense. So it looks to me like it reads the first element as the translation. Second element will be rotation. The third element should be scale. And it, of course, sets each of these variables as a, yeah. That definitely seems to make sense to me. Okay, or else invalid length. Okay, what if you don't have any of these? Then seek would be empty, wouldn't it? Yeah, an empty sequence. What would happen in an empty sequence? Would you still get a transform? It sounds like you still get a transform, but I don't know what would happen to it. Oh yeah, and here we have them all being none. Huh. Nope, I don't know. Because ISO and scale... Oh gosh. Oh, they give default values. There we go. That's how you solve that problem. You supply default values and then, yeah, you can create it. I was wondering, because, like, there's no way you can set those to none, because as we saw in the types up here, or, well, we saw, yeah, as we saw here, it's an isometry, is it, isometry? Isometry? Why do I keep getting caught up on weird English terms? And, or words. In vector 3, These aren't optional. As far as I can tell, there's no options. Yeah. The type makes it fairly obvious that we have to fill in everything. So, yeah, to me it made sense. It made sense that at some point it had to use some kind of like default value or something, because there was no way it was going to be able to, do this safely. So, yeah. There's that type system at work again. Doing cool things, making stuff more readable, at least in my opinion. I think that's gonna be it for today, though. I've definitely recorded longer than I should. This is all really good research. I think tomorrow I'm gonna have enough information to actually be able to implement this prefab. That's kind of exciting. The other thing I kind of wanted to tackle soon is the hashing thing, because it's coming up to the end of the month. It's the 25th already, and I don't have a blog post yet, so yeah, I was thinking of maybe the next blog post would be a bit about the hashing stuff, if I can get that working. That'd be kind of cool, I think. If not, then I do have a backup topic ready. I don't want to go through my backup topics right away, though, obviously, because that's why they're backups. It's in case I can't come up with anything at all. So I'd like to be able to come up with something nice so I can save the backup topics for another time. That way I don't burn out of ideas too quickly. But yeah, anyway, I'll just stop here. It's already really late. I need some sleep. So, yeah.